Welcome to This Explainer. Today we are unpacking something absolutely fascinating, the astrology of unconventional family wealth. We're looking at a concept known as shadow legacies. So if you're the kind of person who loves figuring out how hidden structures dictate real-world outcomes, you are definitely in the right place. Let's dive right in and decode exactly what happens when the stars align to completely upend our traditional expectations of legacy.
I want you to start by just completely dropping your assumptions about how inheritances usually work, right? When we think of family wealth being passed down, we almost always picture this very straightforward, highly predictable process. A formal reading of a will, a transfer of a deed, just a steady, expected transition from one generation to the next. But what happens when family wealth completely breaks those rules? What happens when the expected roadmap just gets thrown entirely out the window? Well, that is exactly the chaotic and frankly fascinating reality we're exploring today.
To really understand this, we need to define our core framework, which is the astrological placement of Rahu in the 8th house. This specific placement is strongly associated with sudden inheritances, totally unconventional financial gains, and highly unpredictable outcomes when it comes to family wealth. You can think of it as a cosmic disruptor. So instead of a steady trickle of predictable assets, it brings irregular timing, bizarre foreign connections, and some highly unusual legal and financial circumstances. It's basically the wild card of family legacies.
Now, astrology actually points to 10 distinct ways this unpredictable energy manifests in the real world of money and family. 10 specific predictions. We are going to unpack these together, kind of like opening up a mystery box to see exactly how this unconventional wealth behaves out in the wild.
Let's jump right into our first section, sudden shocks and windfalls.
The very first shock to the system is the element of total surprise. We're talking about an inheritance arriving suddenly, without any clear prior indication or expectation. Imagine that for a second. You're just going about your normal day-to-day life, budgeting your standard income, and then boom. A sudden drop of wealth occurs with absolutely zero warning. There's no long illness, no years of estate planning that you were clued in on. The defining characteristic here is the complete and utter lack of a runway. There is a really sharp contrast here between a predictable financial flow and these sudden financial bursts. Traditional inheritances or incomes, they're steady. You can literally chart them on a graph. But under Rahu in the 8th house, financial gains come in these erratic bursts. It's a sudden spike on the radar rather than a steady hum. You might actually go years with nothing and then suddenly experience a massive concentrated influx of capital.
So where do these sudden bursts actually come from? Well, they usually stem from unexpected windfalls, like insurance payouts, legal settlements, or other highly unusual family-related events. It's rarely just, an old checking account being handed over. It's very often triggered by an external, sometimes dramatic event that results in a major settlement or payout. The wealth ends up being a byproduct of an incident, rather than a carefully planned gift.
But actually, getting your hands on that sudden windfall isn't exactly a walk in the park. Which brings us to legal webs and foreign ties. If you're dealing with this placement, you're almost certainly going to encounter what we call the complexity matrix. This means intense legal complications that build serious narrative tension around this kind of inheritance. We're talking about really unusual distribution structures, we're talking about deep family disputes, or highly non-traditional arrangements that just completely defy standard legal boilerplate. And honestly, perhaps the most frustrating part? There is often deep ambiguity in the documentation. The paperwork is rarely clean, it's messy, it's contested, and it's incredibly difficult to interpret legally.
To make matters even more complicated, our source material notes, quote, inheritance linked to foreign lands, distant relatives, or cross-border assets, end quote. It really hammers home how far-reaching this can be. The crucial point is that you aren't just dealing with messy paperwork in your hometown. You might literally be dealing with a legal system on the other side of the planet. The wealth might be tied up in property overseas, or it might be coming from a distant relative you barely even knew existed, forcing you to navigate international tax laws and foreign probate courts. The geographical reach of this placement is vast and highly, highly unusual.
All right, beyond the legal headaches, there's a deeply secretive element to all of this. Welcome to hidden assets and family shifts. This process is honestly like something straight out of a mystery novel. It very often involves uncovering hidden assets or previously undisclosed financial resources right within the family system. This means secrets. Finding a safety deposit box that literally no one knew about. Discovering a massive investment account that was kept entirely off the books from the rest of the family. It's this fascinating yet sometimes kind of unsettling process of realizing your family had financial lives that were entirely hidden in the shadows.
Now, in a normal inheritance, the family structure is pretty static. Everyone knows who is who and who gets what. But here, unexpected shifts in the family structure, things like sudden marriages, quiet divorces, or completely unknown heirs popping up, these directly influence your inheritance outcomes. These events can entirely change the trajectory of where the family wealth ultimately lands. The ground beneath the family tree is just constantly moving.
Naturally, having to navigate a labyrinth like this forces a really intense mental focus. It brings a severe psychological toll, manifesting as this intense curiosity, a relentless focus on family wealth, and sometimes even a total fixation on hidden property or financial matters. I mean, think about it. When money is sudden, legally complex, geographically distant, and wrapped up in family secrets, it demands your absolute attention. It can so easily become an all-consuming puzzle that the inheritor just feels compelled to solve.
So, with all this chaos, how does this process ever actually resolve? Let's move to navigating the unpredictable.
The chronological journey of this unique inheritance comes in 3 distinct phases. It always starts with phase 1, the sudden event, the initial shock. Then it plunges right into phase 2, fluctuation and confusion. This is the messy middle where the legal webs, the foreign assets, and those hidden family secrets create absolute chaos. Your outcomes fluctuate wildly between feeling like you've gained everything to feeling completely lost. But ultimately, you do reach phase 3, resolution and clarity. Clarity does arrive, but only after you've fully navigated the immense complexity of phase 2. You literally have to walk through the fog to get to the clear sky.
Surviving this requires exactly what the source material states: adaptability and clarity in handling unexpected financial situations. That is literally the exact tool set you need. You cannot be rigid here. You can't expect things to go according to a traditional plan. You have to remain highly adaptable, and you have to fight for clarity through every single messy, complex step of the process. It brings incredible opportunity, sure, but it demands your absolute flexibility.
We've unpacked sudden windfalls, cross-border legal battles, and the intense journey of uncovering hidden wealth. It is a wildly unpredictable ride, for sure. So I leave you with this to think about. What hidden legacy might be waiting in the shadows of your own family tree? It really makes you completely reevaluate your own financial expectations, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.